They say the river Zamba never flows alone. Elders whisper that spirits walk within its waters, restless, watching, choosing who to bless and who to curse. Few believe those stories anymore, but everything changed the day Amanda appeared. No one knew her family. No one knew her village. She simply walked into Zamba Kingdom at dusk, when the sky had turned burnt orange and the shadows stretched long across the earth. The fishermen were the first to see her. They swore she rose from the riverbank barefoot, dripping as though she'd stepped out from beneath the water's skin. Her glowing brown complexion caught the dying sunlight, and her long black hair clung to her back like woven silk. The men gasped. The women froze. Even the wind seemed to stop. Amanda moved like a dream, slow, confident, dangerous. She smiled at everyone yet looked at no one, and when she spoke, her voice carried the softness of water touching stone. She rented a small hut at the edge of the village, too close to the river. Strange things began happening immediately. At night, villagers swore they heard humming coming from her hut, melodies that sounded almost like songs but carried an unnatural echo. Children claimed they saw blue lights floating near her window. One hunter swore he saw someone standing behind her reflection when she went to fetch water. But the men didn't care about warnings. All they saw was beauty. And no one admired her more than Prince Zubi. Zubi, the heir to the Zamba throne, was the pride of the kingdom. He was tall, strong and kind, with deep brown eyes that never missed a detail. He was trained in battle, respected by the elders and beloved by the people. His charm came naturally. Yet despite the many beautiful daughters of chiefs and nobles who sought his attention, Zubi's heart remained untouched. Until Amanda. He first saw her on market day. She was buying dried fish, her hair wrapped in a deep blue cloth that made her eyes shine like polished river stones. When she looked at him, he felt a strange pull, like invisible hands tugging at his chest. His breath hitched. His heart stumbled. She smiled and the world blurred around him. That night, Zubi dreamed of water. He dreamed of Amanda standing in its center, calling him with her eyes. When he woke, he felt hollow, like part of his spirit had been left inside the dream. From that day on, he found himself drifting toward her without understanding why. He brought her fruits from the palace orchards, flowers from the royal garden, and stories of his travels. She listened gently, her smile softening as though learning him piece by piece. Everyone noticed. And everyone feared it. Old women began whispering again. Elders exchanged uneasy glances. Even the king sensed something unnatural, something that smelled like river magic. But Zubi was blind to warnings. Amanda had cast her charm, and his heart was no longer his. Yet beneath her mesmerizing beauty, Amanda carried a secret more dangerous than anyone imagined, one that whispered to her at night, that tugged her soul toward the river every full moon. A secret that would soon begin to unravel. Prince Zubi tried to convince himself it was ordinary attraction, but nothing about his feelings for Amanda made sense. It wasn't the kind of love that builds slowly like a fire. It was sudden, sharp, and consuming, as though someone had reached into his chest and twisted his heart toward her. Every day he found himself walking to the river's edge, where Amanda loved to sit with her feet in the water. She always seemed to know when he was coming. She would lift her head, smile that slow, hypnotic smile, and the prince would forget every reason he had promised himself he would stay away. But the kingdom watched and whispered. "The prince is changing," one woman murmured as she pounded yam. "He looks tired," another said. "His eyes are dim. Something is eating his spirit." "It is not something," the oldest elder corrected. "It is someone." Prince Zubi ignored the rumors, but in truth he could feel himself changing. Sometimes after speaking with Amanda, he felt dizzy, like part of him was drifting away. Sometimes he saw flashes in his sleep, images of dark waters, bright blue eyes glowing beneath the river, and a throne made of seashells and shadow. But whenever he questioned Amanda, she simply smiled. "Zubi," she would whisper, "you think too much." That was the thing. Amanda never explained her past. She deflected questions with charm. She softened suspicions with gentle laughter. But at night, when Zuby walked her back to her hut, he often felt something watching them from the darkness, something cold, something patient. The first sign. One night, during the full moon, Zuby decided to surprise her. He walked quietly toward her house, carrying roasted plantain and palm wine. But as he drew closer, he heard a voice. Not Amanda's. Not human. It was a deep humming, layered, echoing as though coming from under the earth. Zuby froze. His heartbeat thundered in his ears as he crept closer. Through the small cracks in the hut wall, he saw something that made his blood turn cold. Amanda was kneeling in the center of the room, her long black hair floating around her as if underwater. A faint blue glow circled her body. And behind her, no, over her was a shape. A twisting form made of shimmering water and shifting shadows. Its eyes were bright blue. Too bright. Too alive. Zuby gasped. The blue eyes snapped toward him instantly. The glow vanished. The shadow dissolved. Amanda fell forward, gasping as though someone had unplugged her from a source of power. Zuby fell back, trembling. Before he could run, Amanda spoke softly. Zuby, come in. I know you're there. Her voice wasn't threatening. It wasn't angry. It was tired. So tired that Zuby felt something inside him break. He pushed the door open. Amanda sat on the floor, sweat coating her skin, her eyes dark and frightened. This is what I didn't want you to see, she whispered. Zuby swallowed. Amanda, what are you? She looked away. Not a monster. Not a demon. But I am not fully of this world either. Explain, Zuby demanded, though fear shook his voice. Amanda slowly touched the floor as though the earth burned her palm. I belong to the Marine Court, she said. The river claimed me at birth. They sent me here to take your heart, to take your destiny, and return it to the water. A chill sliced through Zuby. But I didn't expect, she looked up, tears rising in her eyes, to fall in love with you. The confession felt like a stone dropping into deep water. Zuby didn't know what to say. Didn't know what to believe. Didn't know whether to run, scream, or take her in his arms. But one thing was certain. Whatever she belonged to, whatever had sent her, was not done with her yet. Because outside the hut, something moved in the shadows. Something waiting. Something that wanted Amanda back. If you asked anyone in Zamba Kingdom to describe Amanda, they would all say the same thing. She was too beautiful to be ordinary. Her beauty wasn't loud or exaggerated. It was the quiet, unsettling kind, the type that made even old women look twice, the type that made men lower their eyes in confusion, wondering why their hearts raced. Her skin glowed like burnt gold, her eyes carried a soft sadness that made strangers want to comfort her, and her smile had a strange power. It warmed you and chilled you at the same time. But Amanda was not born in Zamba. She appeared. One early morning, years before she met Prince Zuby, an elderly fisherman named Bambo Kalechi found her sitting alone by the riverbank. She was wrapped in wet cloth, her hair dripping, her eyes fixed on the water as if she could hear voices inside it. When he asked, "My child, where is your family?" she simply whispered, "I came from the river, but I belong on land now." Most people assumed she meant another village across the river, but old Bambo knew better. He had lived long enough to understand what others ignored. Nobody simply appears from a river at dawn. Not alive. Not unharmed. Not glowing the way she did. But he kept quiet. Some truths are too dangerous to speak out loud. Amanda grew into a stunning young woman, admired by all but close to none. She kept to herself, avoided crowded gatherings, and only felt comfortable near water streams, ponds, wells. Some villagers whispered that she talked to the river, but no one ever saw her do it. Until the day Prince Zuby met her. He had been riding through the outskirts of the kingdom, inspecting farmlands, when his horse suddenly stopped. Refused to move. Snorted nervously. Zuby frowned and looked ahead. And there she was. Amanda, standing by the shallow riverside, her wrapper fluttering slightly with the breeze. She was washing gourds, though the water around her did not move naturally. It circled her feet in gentle spirals as if greeting her. But Zuby didn't notice the water. He only saw her. When she lifted her face and their eyes met, he felt a strange pull in his chest, not the excitement of attraction, but something deeper, older, like a forgotten memory returning. Amanda smiled, soft and slow. "Prince Zuby," she said, though no one had told her he was coming. He blinked. "How do you know me?" She only turned to the river and whispered, "The water knows every heartbeat in this land." From that day, Zuby found himself thinking about her constantly. Her voice, her smile, her presence. He visited her village again and again, using any excuse. Amanda never pushed him away. She made him comfortable, listened when he spoke, laughed at his jokes in a way that made him feel like the only man alive. Sometimes, when he was about to leave, she would touch his wrist lightly, just a small touch, yet it sent an unfamiliar warmth through his body. Was it love growing? Or something else? Even Zuby couldn't tell. His mother, Queen Amara, noticed the change in her son. He grew distracted, restless, almost bewitched. One night she confronted him gently. "My son, is there something you are not telling me?" Zuby hesitated, then admitted, "Mother, I think I have found the woman I want to marry." But as he said it, his heart thudded strangely, as if warning him. That night, he dreamed of Amanda standing in the river, half submerged, her eyes glowing faintly, calling his name with a voice that echoed underwater. He woke up sweating. Something was wrong. Something was hidden. Yet the strange part was, he didn't want to run. He wanted to know more. And that desire, innocent, curious, and dangerous, was the beginning of everything that would soon unravel in Zamba Kingdom. Prince Zuby tried to ignore the strange dreams, but they did not ignore him. Every night, as soon as he closed his eyes, Amanda appeared again, half in the river, half on land, her voice echoing from beneath the water. Sometimes she smiled gently. Other times her face shifted, becoming unfamiliar, ancient, and frighteningly calm. But in the day she was warm, sweet, and mysteriously gentle. Too gentle. There was something about her that didn't fit the world of ordinary humans. Something small, subtle, but impossible to miss once you felt it. Prince Zuby felt it strongly. Yet still he was drawn to her. The old woman who knew too much. One evening, Zuby visited her village as usual. The sun was sinking, painting the sky orange and pink. Amanda was by the riverside, her feet buried in the wet sand. But she wasn't alone. An old woman, wrinkled, bent, and blind in one eye, was standing a few meters behind her, holding a staff made from Irako wood. The moment she heard Zuby approach, she raised the staff and struck it on the ground. "Go back, Prince of Zamba," she warned, her voice trembling with age. "You are walking into a shadow you do not understand." Zuby froze. Amanda turned sharply, her expression tightening for the first time. "Grandmother, please," she whispered. The old woman shook her head violently. "She does not belong to you. She does not belong to land." Zuby frowned. "What do you mean by that?" The old woman pointed her staff at Amanda. "Her name is not Amanda. That is the name humans gave her. Her real name is something you cannot pronounce. She came from a place where drums do not sound and fire does not survive. She came from the deep." Amanda's eyes glistened with something that was not fear but anger. "Grandmother, go home," she ordered softly. "No," the old woman insisted. "I will not watch another man fall into the hands of a water spirit child." Zuby's heart skipped. Water spirit? Child of the deep? He looked at Amanda, waiting for her to deny it, but she lowered her gaze instead. That silence was sharper than any confession. Before he could speak, Amanda took his hand suddenly. "Come with me," she whispered urgently. The wind shifted. The river rippled unnaturally despite the still evening air. Zuby allowed her to lead him away, but his mind kept replaying the old woman's words like a curse that refused to fade. The revealing night. When they reached a quiet corner of the riverside, Amanda finally stopped walking. Her hands were shaking slightly, though her voice remained soft. "I never wanted you to know this way," she whispered. Zuby swallowed hard. "Is it true?" What she said. Amanda turned toward the river. The water responded, rising slightly around her ankles as though greeting her. "My mother was not human," she said quietly. "She was a spirit of the marine world. My father was a fisherman who loved what he should have feared." "And you?" Zuby whispered. Amanda looked up at him, tears brimming in her eyes. "I was born between two worlds. But the sea, it never forgot me. It still calls me." Zuby stepped back instinctively. Not because he feared her but because he feared himself. He feared how deeply he was falling for someone who might not truly belong to his world. Amanda saw the fear in his eyes. Her voice broke. "That is why I never wanted to love you. Humans run when they see the truth." Zuby wanted to speak, but nothing came out. He didn't run. He didn't stay. He simply stood there, trapped between love and doubt, fear and longing, as the river water continued to swirl around Amanda's feet like a loyal companion. Behind them, the old woman's voice echoed faintly in the wind. "You cannot save her without losing yourself." Amanda turned sharply, whispering to the river in a language Zuby didn't understand. The water carried her words away as if delivering them to the depths. Zuby realized in that terrifying and beautiful moment that the story of Amanda was only just beginning, and whatever truth lay ahead, he was already in too deep to escape. Prince Zuby could not sleep. Amanda's confession kept echoing in his mind, mixing with the old woman's warning until the lines between truth and fear became impossible to separate. He stared at the palace ceiling long into the night, listening to distant drums from the far end of Zamba Kingdom. The rhythm was slow, heavy, and spiritual, the kind used to chase away wandering spirits. It made him shiver. But it was not the drums that woke him in the middle of the night. It was the voice, soft, echoing, almost familiar. "Zuby." His heart froze. He sat upright, eyes wide, searching the room. But the palace chamber was empty, lit only by the moonlight slipping through the window. Then he heard it again, not from inside the room but from outside. From the river. "Zuby." No human throat could produce that sound. It was too layered, too smooth, almost like several voices speaking through the same mouth. He rushed to the window. At first he saw nothing. Then he noticed a figure near the riverbank, tall, slender, glowing faintly blue. Hair flowing like water. Eyes shining like wet stones. It was not Amanda. It was something older. Something powerful. Something that looked like the ocean itself had taken human form. And it was staring straight at him. Prince Zuby's throat tightened. As if responding to his fear, the river rose slightly, creating small waves even though the night was windless. The spirit lifted an arm slowly and pointed toward Amanda's village. The gesture was calm. But the meaning was clear. Go to her. Then the spirit dissolved into a column of water, no splash, no sound, as though it had never been there. Zuby didn't think, he simply ran. Through the palace halls. Across the courtyard. Down the dirt path toward Amanda's village. The guards called after him, but he didn't stop. Something was wrong. Very wrong. When Zuby reached her village, he heard the shouting before he saw the flames. Torches, drums and cries of fear. The villagers had surrounded Amanda's hut. Some held charms made of cowries and red cloth. Others clutched palm wine gourds used in cleansing rituals. The old woman with the Irako staff stood in front of the crowd, chanting something sharp and ancient. Adamiri, daughter of the water. Release her and return what you have taken. Zuby's blood ran cold. Then Amanda screamed from inside the hut. Not a scream of pain. A scream of struggle, as though two forces were fighting inside her body. He pushed through the crowd. People tried to hold him back but failed. He kicked open the door. And what he saw froze him where he stood. Amanda was on her knees, trembling violently. Her skin glowed faintly with a wet, bluish sheen. Her hair floated as if underwater even though the room was dry. And behind her a dark silhouette made of shifting water loomed like a shadow trying to merge with her body. Zubi yelled her name. Her head snapped toward him, eyes glowing bright like polished shells. "Zubi, leave," she gasped. "They are coming for me." The shadow behind her whispered in a watery language that made the air feel heavy. The old woman stormed in, staff raised. "You cannot fight the sea," she shouted. "The child belongs to them." The watery figure rose higher, forming a tall, twisting shape, ready to take Amanda back into its world. Zubi did not think. He grabbed Amanda, pulling her into his arms. The moment he touched her, the watery figure let out a hiss that shook the hut. The lamps flickered. The walls trembled. The drums outside stopped instantly. Then the shadow exploded into a spray of cold mist and vanished. Amanda collapsed into Zubi's chest, sobbing. "I don't want to go back," she whispered. "I don't want to belong to them anymore." Zubi held her tighter. "I won't let them take you." But the old woman shook her head slowly. "You don't understand, Prince. Tonight was only the beginning. The sea does not lose its children easily." Lightning flashed outside, though the sky was clear. Somewhere in the distance, the river roared louder than it ever had before, as if answering the challenge, as if preparing for war. For 3 days and 3 nights, the village lived in fear. After the watery spirit attacked Amanda in her hut, nothing felt normal anymore. The river no longer sounded peaceful, its waves roared even when there was no wind. The birds stopped singing. Goats refused to graze near the riverbank. Even the children whispered when walking past Amanda's home, as if the spirits themselves were listening. But the most terrifying thing was what happened to Amanda. She was changing. Not in the way the villagers expected. She wasn't becoming more monstrous. She was becoming more human. Her skin lost that faint watery glow. Her hair stopped floating unnaturally. Her heartbeat, once faint like a distant wave, now sounded strong and steady. But the closer she became to the world of the living, the angrier the spirits of the marine court grew. On the 4th night, as the moon reached its highest point, the village was awakened by a deep, thunderous sound. Not from the palace. Not from any drum made by human hands. It came from the river. From under the water. The marine drums. Elders rushed out of their homes, carrying charms and invoking ancestral names. Women covered their children's faces. Warriors gathered with spears, though they knew spears meant nothing to spirits. Zubi was already standing outside Amanda's hut, holding her hand tightly. "Amanda," he whispered, "what are they trying to say?" She closed her eyes, trembling. The sound of the drums made her bones shake. "They are angry," she whispered. "I broke the bond. I chose this world." "I chose?" She swallowed and looked into Zubi's eyes. "I chose you." The prince's heart tightened. Before he could respond, a cold wind blew through the village, cold like rainwater in mid-season, cold like deep ocean. Torches flickered. Shadows lengthened. The drums got louder. Then everyone heard it. A deep voice rising from the river calling Amanda. The villagers fell to their knees, some covering their ears in fear. Even Zubi felt his heart skip. The voice was ancient, powerful, filled with command. "The Mother of Tides," Amanda whispered. "She has come." Zubi wanted to ask who that was, but he didn't get the chance. Because the river began to rise. Not gently. Not naturally. The water surged upward as if being pulled by invisible hands, forming a towering column that twisted like a serpent preparing to strike. Everyone screamed. The column exploded into mist, and from it stepped a figure. Tall, majestic, terrifying. A woman made entirely of water, glowing faint blue, her hair flowing like a storm tide. Her eyes were deep pools without end. The Mother of Tides herself. Her voice shook the earth. "Child of the deep, return to us." Amanda collapsed, gripping her chest. "I can't," she whispered. I am no longer yours." The river spirit raised a hand. The ground trembled. The air grew heavy and wet. "You belong to the sea," the spirit hissed. "You were bound before your first breath. You cannot break a pact of water with a heart of flesh." Zubi stepped forward. "I don't care who you are," he said, voice shaking but steady. "She chooses her life. She chooses her humanity. She chooses me." The Mother of Tides turned her gaze toward him, and for a moment, all sound died. Even the wind stopped. Then she said something that froze every soul in the village. "You challenge the sea, mortal? Then let the sea test you." She opened her hands. A blast of water shot forward like a spear, heading straight for Zubi. Amanda screamed. But Zubi didn't move. He couldn't. The force hit him with the weight of 1,000 waves, lifting him and hurling him violently against a tree. He collapsed, gasping. Amanda ran to him, crying, "Please? He is innocent. Take me if you must, not him." For the first time, the Mother of Tides hesitated. Not because of mercy, but because she could sense something changing in Amanda, something resisting her, something growing stronger than the bond she once shared with the sea. A human spirit. A human heart. A human love. The drumbeats faltered. The river calmed slightly. The spirit tilted her head, studying Amanda like a mother unsure whether to punish a child or let her walk away. "This is not finished," she whispered. "The ocean does not forget." Then her watery form dissolved, falling back into the river with a thunderous splash. The drums stopped. The river turned silent. The villagers stayed on their knees, shaking. Amanda held Zubi tightly, tears falling like rain. But deep inside her heart, something had changed. Something powerful had awakened. The sea had come to take her and failed. The morning after the battle with the Mother of Tides, the village of Zamba woke to a sky that looked strangely golden, as if the heavens themselves were relieved. The wind was softer. The river was quiet. Even the birds dared to sing again. But inside Amanda's hut, Zubi lay weak, his breath shallow. The blast from the water spirit had bruised his ribs and left him barely able to move. Amanda stayed by his side through the night, washing his wounds, whispering prayers, and holding his hand as if letting go would invite the sea to claim him again. Just before sunrise, Zubi opened his eyes. "Amanda," he whispered, voice frail. She broke into tears instantly. "Zubi, you're alive." He tried to sit up, pain twisting his face. "Did she take you?" Amanda shook her head fiercely. "No one will ever take me again. Not the river. Not the spirits. Not the world beneath the waves." Zubi reached for her hand. "Then stay with me. Not as someone fleeing the sea, but as someone choosing the land. Choosing me." Her heart jolted. For the first time, she felt completely free, not half spirit, not half woman, but fully herself. "I choose you," she whispered. "And I will choose you every day." At dawn, the village elders arrived carrying gourds, herbs, and sacred chalk. If Amanda was to finally break the marine bond forever, a cleansing had to be done, not one of violence, but one of rebirth. She stood at the riverbank, the same river that once whispered her name from below. Warriors stood guard, villagers gathered behind them, and elders drew ancient symbols on the ground. Zubi, barely healed but stubborn as always, forced himself to stand beside her. "Amanda must not face this alone," he said. The elders nodded, even they could feel the bond between them. The ritual began with drums, slow at first, then rising like a heartbeat awakening. Smoke curled around them as herbs burned, and the sacred river stones glowed under the morning sun. Amanda stepped forward. "You who once claimed me," she said into the wind, "I release you. I return your power. I walk my path with my own feet." A wave rolled toward her, silent, harmless, then pulled back as if accepting her words. One elder raised his staff. "From this moment, Amanda belongs to no spirit, no court, no water." Another elder placed a palm on her head. "She is reborn. By earth. By sun. By ancestors." The drums stopped. The river fell completely still. And for the first time since her birth, Amanda felt her soul settle into one world. That same afternoon, Zubi called for a gathering at the palace square. Villagers, elders, warriors, children, everyone came, murmuring, wondering, hoping. Zubi stood tall despite his injuries. "I will not hide the truth," he began. "Amanda came from a world different from ours. But she chose us. She chose me. She fought spirits I could never dream of facing." He turned to her, eyes full of admiration. And she won. The villagers watched Amanda, expecting fear, but she simply bowed her head with humility. Zubi stepped forward. "I want her beside me. As my wife. As my future queen. As the woman who risked everything to become part of our world." A long silence stretched across the square. Then a single clap. Then another. Then cheers erupted like thunder. Women ululated. Children danced. Warriors slammed their spears into the ground in approval. For the first time, Amanda felt fully accepted. Their wedding took place at sunset, beneath an enormous baobab tree believed to be older than the kingdom itself. Golden light poured over them, making Amanda's skin glow with warmth, not magic. Zubi looked like a man stepping into destiny. Drums beat, dancers moved in circles. Elders blessed them with palm wine and ancestral chants. When they tied their wrists together with the ceremonial red cloth, the crowd erupted in celebration. Even the river behind them shimmered softly, peacefully, not in anger, but as though offering a quiet farewell. Amanda whispered one final message to the water. "Thank you for letting me go." And the river remained calm. A year later, when the old king returned to the ancestors, Zubi and Amanda were crowned king and queen. Their rule became known as the Era of Balance, a time of peace, prosperity, and unity between the natural and spiritual worlds. Amanda was no longer a marine daughter, no longer a spirit's prisoner, no longer caught between worlds. She was simply Amanda, a woman of strength, a queen of courage, a heart finally free. And beside her, Zubi ruled not just with power, but with love that conquered even the sea.